Thank you. Philip Yoon is Executive Director of the Ploughshares Fund, a public foundation working against the spread of nuclear weapons. He was the advisor on North Korea to former President Bill Clinton. Philip, always good to have you with us. Let me start by asking you the very same question that I asked Ivan. Why would North Korea do this at this point in time? Yes, you could say top line, it's a goodwill gesture, but what do they want in return?
Well, I think what they want to do is, again, diplomacy has a momentum of its own, and we saw from the very beginning that there was this dramatic announcement about possibly participating with the Olympics earlier this year after a degree of very high tension. You recall in December, we were actually thinking, or we were hearing about a unilateral strike. And then what has happened is that things have progressed faster and faster and faster, and in certain ways, the movement on this has been stunning. And so this is just part of that process where they want to continue this. I would expect we might see something else. For example, North Korea will actually bring in the press to show that it's closing down its test site in Pyeongjae, and maybe a few other things. So this is the process that goes on. One of the dangers with respect to the kidnappers is that the person earlier talked about the Japanese abductees, is that there may be a backlash to some degree. We don't know how well or how poorly these people have been treated, and when their stories come out, that may make things a little bit more difficult for us moving forward.
All right, so to pick up on the point you made that you don't believe this is the end of, I guess, North Korean goodwill gestures, that they may invite foreign powers in to take a look at the installations, if you will. I guess my question is, even by doing that, as well as by letting these three go, what does that mean for the talks and the president's goal, the U.S. president's goal of denuclearization?
Not clear. I think what it is that you try to create momentum and a good atmosphere where people feel like they're actually putting their best foot forward, trying to make something work. But what it comes down to is this meeting, this summit between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump is all going to be about denuclearization. And the very issue is that the North Koreans have one definition of denuclearization, and the United States probably has another. One has to do with timing. The North Koreans would like to wait until they see and they can feel like they can actually not trust, but can see what the United States is going to do. And Donald Trump has said, we're not going to wait. We want it to be happening very quickly. That's, we have to see if that gap can be bridged. And there's also a definition of denuclearization, whereas the United States says we want North Korea to give up its weapons. North Korea is going to be talking about the peninsula as a whole. They may be talking about U.S. troops. They may be talking about the U.S. nuclear umbrella to protect Japan and to protect South Korea. So those are the issues that are going to matter. And all of this is really just for atmospherics.
Okay. The fact that Kim Jong-un is just back from meeting with President Xi of China, second visit in a very short space of time, what does that say to you?
Well, I think what's happening is that Kim Jong-un is basically hedging his bets. What's going on here is we know, and I think the Chinese realize, that the North Koreans feel like they're way too dependent on China, and they would like to get out from under the finger or under the thumb of China. So in certain ways, they are playing off the United States and China off of each other, and there's a conversation going here as to maybe Kim Jong-un is saying, what will you give me, and can you up what I'm receiving from the other party? There's another conversation here where perhaps there's some coordination going on between North Korea and China, and possibly to some degree people are talking about this with respect to South Korea, because ultimately South Korea, Japan, and China do not want a unilateral strike or any kind of conflict on the Korean Peninsula. That seems to be an overriding interest on their part, and they're not sure about Donald Trump.
Philip, last question to you. Obviously, this is coming very swiftly on the heels of President Trump pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. Do you feel that the pressure is on this administration now to get a better deal with Kim Jong-un than the deal that they trashed with Iran?
Yeah, I think that's certainly the case. I think what has happened is that the Iran deal was actually working. And that's the tragedy of it all. And what you saw was, and I believe it's partially something like anything but Obama syndrome here. But what happened is that Donald Trump very distinctly drew a connection between his decision to withdraw from the Iran deal and North Korea. He basically is saying, I mean what I say. So this is his attempt in a very subtle way to give pressure to the North Koreans, saying, you know, I'm going to do what I'm saying I'm going to do, so you better pay attention. On the other hand, the North Koreans, why would they agree to something long term when they feel like they're not going to, any agreement is not really worth it, especially when the other side is complying and Donald Trump decides to just walk away. So that's the conundrum here. Not sure how the North Koreans are going to take it.
Which brings us back full circle and brings us back to the point of what is this move, the release of these 3 Americans, what is it worth in the big scheme of things? As you made the point, it is all just atmospherics. Philip Yoon, appreciate it.
It's atmospherics and it's important.
Yes,
okay,
no,
thank
and
you.
listen, and they're home, they're on their way home to be reunited with their loved ones. That is very important and not to be understated.
Yeah.
Philip, thank you.